Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. We have an awesome show planned for you today. Steve Kim's going to join me here shortly. I'm going to start out with a little mockery, with a little derision, with a little sarcasm. And I'm not going to tell you what about. I'll just get into it here shortly. And then Steve Kim will respond and we'll talk about some other things. Dawn Staley, I don't know, the South Carolina coach, she's been severely harmed. She's been ruined and destroyed by not receiving a #1 seed in the women's NCAA basketball tournament. We'll discuss that. Deion Sanders has an interesting idea for spring football. He wants to play spring football games against different competition. Syracuse's coach, Fran Brown, I believe is his name, has volunteered to bring Syracuse to Boulder for 3 days. We don't know if this is NCAA rules, but we'll ask Steve if this is a good idea. Draymond Green had some interesting things to say about Stephen A. Smith. Kendrick Perkins is calling Steph Curry the GOAT. So we'll cover all of that today, plus the little sarcasm that I'm going to start the show with, but I don't want to ruin it. I just want to get into it. But before I do that, guys, I want to talk with you about our mission here at Fearless, our part of our purpose, and that is supporting the belief that life begins at conception. And we do that by supporting Preborn, an organization near and dear to our hearts. I think Preborn's been partnered with us for nearly 3 years now. And it's a part of what we do as fearless soldiers, as masculine men, as biblically grounded men. We support young women who are impregnated and considering abortion. And we do that by supporting Preborn because Preborn provides that woman with an ultrasound, introduces that baby's heartbeat to the mother, introduces a sonogram image to the mother. Once the mother is introduced to the baby growing inside her womb, she is now more than twice as likely to choose life. And that's when Preborn's like, hey, we got you, babe. We got you. We're going to introduce you to this baby. We're going to introduce you to Jesus Christ. This is going to be one of the greatest decisions of your life. And we're going to support you guys for up to 2 years. They do this because we donate to Preborn. And it's one of the greatest feelings you can have, knowing that you're participating in saving babies' lives and introducing the baby, the mother, the world to Jesus Christ. And so we do this $28 at a time. You can hit pound 250, say the keyword baby. Whether you give $28, $280, $2,800, or $28,000, it all goes to supporting expectant mothers. This money isn't wasted on mid-level executives and their second summer homes and all that. This pays for ultrasounds. And, Dan Steiner, the founder, friend of the show, we've had him on the show, we've introduced, he's been a supporter of Roll Call, the whole 9 yards. Our money's not wasted. 2 ways to give, pound 250, keyword baby, or the way I prefer to go to give, preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless. All right, now that I'm done being completely serious, let me make a huge announcement. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Angel Reese won a championship last night. Angel Reese just added to her legend and lore and accomplishments last night. Her resume now, in comparison to Caitlin Clark wishes she had Angel Reese's resume. Angel Reese is a champion in the Unrivaled 3-on-3 Gus Macker Pickup Basketball League, founded this year by a couple of WNBA players. I believe Brianna Stewart and Nafesia Collier. I think they founded this league. And the welfare system that's been erected around these wonderful, super athletic, terrific basketball players and role models and these wonderful activists that just Black Lives Matter and, communism matters and Marxism matters and scissoring matters. The people that support that have just named a champion in the Unrivaled 3-on-3 full-court basketball league that virtually no one watched. Angel Reese was a member of, what's the name of this team? The Rose, I think is the name of this team, Rose. They won the inaugural Unrivaled championship last night, and people immediately took to social media and Twitter and started posting, look at what Angel Reese has accomplished. She has a national championship at LSU. She was the rebounding queen of the WNBA. Now she has a championship in the Unrivaled 3-on-3 Gus Macker League. And she's Defensive Player of the Year in the Unrivaled 3-on-3 League. Look, Angel Reese, my queen. Oh, what an accomplishment. And it was such a big accomplishment. Everybody rushed out to congratulate Angel Reese. And I want to tell you what a big deal this championship was. The Rose team, I think they beat the Vinyl team. And I think this game was played somewhere in Florida, some little small town in Florida. But I want to tell you what a big deal this was. And just how important this championship was to Angel Reese. Angel Reese didn't even attend the game. She was not in the building last night when her team achieved this remarkable accomplishment. Angel Reese was so thrilled, she FaceTimed in during the press conference and celebration. That's how big this Unrivaled championship was, that Angel Reese had to take time out of her busy schedule while being crowned a champion. She took time out of her crowded, busy schedule to FaceTime in to celebrate this remarkable achievement. I don't know where you were last night when Angel Reese was somewhere in Chicago or somewhere in some other city while her 3-on-3 Gus Macker team was wrapping up a championship. But I know where I was. I was at home in bed, unaware that this was even going on. This is one of those moments where years from now, we'll be talking about where we were when Angel Reese FaceTimed in to celebrate the championship her 3-on-3 Gus Macker team just won. And I bring all this up because ESPN covered this championship. It's been on the homepage of ESPN.com all last night, all this morning. I think her name woman's Chelsea Gray scored 30-some-odd points last night in the championship game, and of course they had to mention that this championship that Angel Reese has added to her trophy case, that she didn't even play in the last two games. And she thought so much of this championship that she was like, nah, I don't want to diminish the greatness of this championship by attending the game and rooting on my teammates. I don't want to diminish this. So I'll FaceTime in, and then social media will do the rest. And if I have a serious point in all of this welfare system that we've put together for women athletes, and I don't mean to deride all female athletes. I think it's great what they've done, many of them done, but this welfare basketball situation we got, no one wanted a 3-on-3 full-court women's basketball league, and no one paid attention to this. But out of pity and out of this mindset of, oh God, we've done women so wrong, we must make amends by pretending that a 3-on-3 basketball league just started in its inaugural season is so important that we must pay attention to this, and we must, oh God, did you see? Angel Reese averaged 14 points and 13 rebounds in the Unrivaled league. When you hear me talk on this show about men, quit apologizing to women, quit pretending like we owe them some debt. This is what this mindset leads to of, hey, let's put together a social media campaign and let's pretend like Angel Reese just accomplished something important, because we're going to build up this narrative that Angel Reese is one of the great athletes of our lifetime. She's right there with Steph Curry, and she's right there with LeBron James. She's right there with Kevin Durant. She's got a championship at LSU, and now she has a championship in the Unrivaled League. Everybody rush to social media and pretend like you actually watched Unrivaled, actually cared about Unrivaled. Let's go rush to social media and pretend that you care more about the Unrivaled League than Angel Reese does. Because she missed the last 2 games. And this championship game was so unimportant, she's like, nah, I'm good. I'll watch from home. I'll watch this stream from home. And I'll FaceTime in if we win. And then Angel Reese, didn't she take to Twitter last night and ask some question about what y'all gonna say now? Yeah, Angel Reese beating her shit. What y'all gonna say now? Now that I have this Unrivaled championship that I didn't even think to attend because I hurt my ankle or I hurt my hand or something and I had some excuse. Or maybe she went to LeBron James's youngest son's high school state championship game. Maybe she was joining LeBron in celebrating that. All of that was more important than being at the location, being with her teammates, and actually, if this championship mattered, she would show up. She can afford it. But this cosplay, this game we keep playing with women and women's sports and all of this reparations we're giving them, reparations and welfare. We'll finance the WNBA for 30 straight years, even though it loses money every single year. We will pretend like this Unrivaled league matters. The men have something called the Big Three. Does ESPN pay attention to that? Does social media run around and pretend like that their championships matter? And oh my God, Royce White or Steve Jackson or someone, they've added to their legacy by winning the Big Three. But somehow this women's league that no one watched, I'm supposed to believe that, oh yeah, Angel Reese just added to her trophy case. She didn't even attend the game. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I'm going to bring Steve Kim into this conversation. Before I do, I want to talk with you guys about a company that I've recently discovered, Home Title Lock. Did you know scammers can literally steal your home right out from underneath you? The FBI calls it house stealing, and it's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners. Here's how it works. Criminals forge one signature on a document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, and file it with your local recorder's office. And just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then they take out loans using your equity as collateral or even sell the property behind your back, and you won't even know it's happening until you start getting collection or foreclosure notices. The reason why this is foremost in my mind, obviously you guys have listened to me talk about this home renovation I've had here in Nashville and some properties I own in Florida and Indianapolis. And it's like, I'm not a detail person. I'm a creative person. You know, the details aren't my deal. And that's why I trust Home Title Lock to keep up to date with what's going on with my title. They give me 24/7 immediate protection and monitoring, urgent alerts if there are any changes to my title. And if fraud should happen, they got a team that restores and fixes my problem. Home Title Lock, I couldn't suggest it any higher to some of those of you that are property owners and want to protect yourself. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, use my promo code Fearless250, or click on the link in the description and make sure to check out the $1 Million Triple Lock protection details when you get there. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Fearless250 to get the protection and peace of mind you deserve. All right, Steve Kim, welcome to the show. Do you know where you were last night when Angel Reese added to her trophy case and her GOAT resume? I think now with a title at LSU and a title in the Unrivaled League, now at the professional ranks, her GOAT resume is starting to really build.
Yeah, I don't know where I was when I heard the news, but can we be honest about it? That wasn't even the biggest thing that happened in basketball last night. Did you see Tracy Morgan's vomit? No, you thought I got sick having to watch NBA basketball. I mean, Morgan looked like the Family Guy. Vomit. Did you remember when the family just vomits all together? Brian, Meg, Lois, Peter Griffin, all of them. I mean, he looked like a vomit hydrant. I actually thought that was more notable, a bigger story, and certainly more entertaining than anything I saw, which was very little of Unrivaled.
So Tracy Morgan's vomit, a bigger deal than Angel Reese adding another ring to her finger. You don't think Angel Reese over FaceTime wasn't, doing this, over Face? She didn't even attend the game. That's how insignificant this is.
Well, now that I think about it, Jason, I think that's the reaction that many people had to not her winning the award. Congratulations for whatever that's worth. And by the way, with the way they shoot, isn't everybody really the defensive player of the league in that league anyway? But I do think.
Hold on, Steve. Can we play the clips of all those missed layups? Because I think this is how she got Defensive Player of the Year, by lowering her own shooting percentage. Yeah. No one defends Angel Reese better than Angel Reese. Go ahead, Steve. I'll cut you off.
Yeah, no, if the Republic of China ever needs to renovate the Great Wall that they have, I would contract her. I mean, she'd be on the front line laying those things. But anyway, what you spoke about, how they are now trying to make this into Dennis Rodman during his prime, winning Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA, I think has a lot of people, reacting like Tracy Morgan last night. It's just too much. This is basically a summer league. It's an intramural league. It's an extracurricular activity that could bring a few bucks to these poor working ladies. But to make this into more than what it is, but again, the standards you set for somebody, that's what you think of them.
I'm telling you, this debt that we feel like we owe women, and it's like, if we just weren't so sexist and misogynistic, Angel Reese would be playing right alongside LeBron James. If women had been allowed to develop on the basketball court for the last 150 years, Angel Reese would already be in the NBA. She'd be making millions of dollars. I will say this, though, for this league, and I don't know who financed it, George Soros or whoever, but each one of the ladies on the team, they got a $50,000 check. They got a $50,000 check for winning a Gus Macker 3. Do you know what a Gus Macker is? Did they have that out in California? The Gus Macker 3-on-3.
That's a famous tournament. Yeah, that's one of those famous tournaments they had back on the East Coast. And $50,000 is nothing to sneeze at, given the fact that the average American salary is $47,000. I mean, that's a pretty good living. Yeah. And how long did they do this? There's only a couple of months. Look, just to veer off into something. When these WNBA players complain about their salaries, and some of them are into their six figures, I'm thinking, wait a minute, your season isn't that long, and you're still making more than most people for that same time span. There has to be a little bit of nuance to this whole discussion. But, look, when you look at her game, she is what she is. She is a Joakim Noah type of player. She's going to rebound. She's going to be somewhat physical. She's not going to be very graceful offensively. She has found her niche, and she's good at it. She's going to make a pretty good living at that and some extracurricular activities. But let's not make it into her being like the most skillful athletic player. There is, based on what we said yesterday, Jason, and believe it or not, I was actually thinking about this a little bit. Caitlin Clark makes an argument for actually being among the top 5 to 10 women's players we've ever seen at the college level, and maybe all time when it's all said and done, right? I think we'd all agree based on her skill set.
Yeah.
We're not going to say that about Caitlin Clark. She is nowhere near the Angel Reese. She's nowhere near Swoops. Yeah. There it is. Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Miller, all of these other ladies that we talk about. That's the reality. So when you say that these two are the Bird and Magic, I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. You are actually insulting one player and vastly overrating the other.
I actually think you're insulting Joakim Noah, and I'm sure.
It's true. Joakim, you're a Gator, but I still respect you. You have national championship rings. My apologies to Joakim. There, okay?
All right. I've had as much fun as I can have with the Angel Reese topic. I apologize to those of you that are offended, but I couldn't help myself. I found the whole thing humorous last night. Steve, I want to move on. I'm going to stay in women's college basketball, and this is like part of my problem.
I know.
This is part of my problem with all these athletes. But Dawn Staley, South Carolina, is upset. She's the number 1 seed in her region, but she's not the number 1 overall seed. UCLA is. UCLA has more victories than South Carolina, and UCLA beat South Carolina during the regular season. But Dawn Staley still thinks that they were robbed of the number 1 overall seed. Let's play the clip. Dawn Staley's not talking. Do we have the clip? Do we have the clip? All right, we'll keep it. Anyway, she's upset, and she got a little whiny cry face on. Does she have a case here?
Well, by the way, that's a perpetual look. I have a question. Wasn't UCLA the number 1 rated team for a good portion of this past season? Right? Yes. What's the complaint here? You lose head-to-head. They're a good team. But Dawn Staley has a perpetual sense of entitlement. And look, she absolutely participates in the victimhood Olympics, even when she's on top. And she has an absolute monster of a program that is a dynasty. But as Thomas Sowell said, is the philosophy of grievance. I would expect nothing less from her.
All right, Steve, we're gonna move to a topic that's more near and dear to your heart. Deion Sanders has an interesting suggestion for college football and for spring football, and this is actually a legitimate issue. The teams have now opting out of a spring game. Yes. I guess it's injury protection. Maybe the players are making too much money and they don't want to risk injury, but spring football is now over as it relates to spring games, but Deion wants to re-inject and has a suggestion. Let's play the clip.
Spring game will be televised. ESPN2 will broadcast spring game on the 19th. We got to sell this thing out and pack this thing because the way the trend is going, you never know if this is going to be the last spring game. I don't believe in that. I don't really want to condone that. I would like to play the spring. Actually, I like to play against another team in the spring. That's what I'm trying to do right now, to have it competitive. Playing against your own guys kind of get monotonous, and you really can't tell the level of your guys because, it's the same old. Everybody kind of know each other towards the end. I would like to style it like the pros. I would like to practice against someone for a few days, then you have the spring game. And I think the public will be satisfied with that tremendously. I think it's a tremendous idea. Yeah, I've told those personnel who should understand that it's a tremendous idea.
Do you think it's a tremendous idea, Steve? Tremendously.
Can I just say something? Coach Prime, you are being a great American football coach. I like this. No, I like that. I don't care what you say. I know you're against him. Here I am firmly endorsing Coach Prime. He is protecting an institution of college football. And in an era where coaches and programs are shutting down spring games and not televising them, the fact that he wants to actually evolve this, because look, if we're going to make this into pro football, which it's becoming, why not just go all the way? They do it in fall camp for football. Teams come in. Even in high school, I know certain states, they have jamborees where multiple schools come in and scrimmage and practice against each other. We need to actually change the paradigm of this whole thing and evolve with the 21st century. And Jason, to what you said a few minutes ago, one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the reasons why certain programs and coaches are against spring games and not doing them, it's about poach protection. They don't want to advertise their players and have basically be the Sears catalog and say, hey, guys, is there anyone you like? Make an offer. So that's also part of the reason why some of these spring games are becoming expunged.
Oh, that's an interesting bit of nuance, and it makes sense. Steve, here's what I don't like it, and I know I'm the only one that would make this argument. Syracuse's coach, is it Fran Brown? Is Brown his last name?
Fran Brown.
Yeah.
Fiery guy.
Yeah, he raised his hand and said, hey, we'd come to Boulder for 3 days.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting there like, you would travel to Boulder for 3 days. I think school is in session, and it's these guys during football season already get taxed enough and pulled away from their academics. And I'm fine. Let's just acknowledge that none of this has anything to do with the educational experience. And yes, so if teams want to fly across country to go scrimmage each other for 3 days, let's call it what it is. Let's remove the academic commitments and standards and just let these are traveling entertainers that the schools rent for 4 or 5 years to entertain their student body and their alums and fans and make money and draw donations.
That's a rather cynical view of things, but I have a question. To the mid-50s version of Jason Whitlock, what would the young 18 to 21-year-old version of Jason Whitlock, the noted scholar athlete at Ball State, think of this version? I mean, are you still holding on to this whole thing that they are student athletes and that this is amateur sports? Jason, I give Fran Brown and Coach Prime credit. The worst thing you could be in life is not a liar. It's being a hypocrite. They're keeping it all the way, as the kids say, hunted. Hunnid, hunted. I give them credit. They're not trying to be phonies. They're not trying to do anything that they're not supposed to. They're trying to develop a football team, and for the fans, they're trying to provide a little bit of entertainment in the spring. I give them credit.
I'm not going to give them credit, but and
Put a stunner.
Unless they go all the way there and just say, hey, look, all these academic requirements, all these fake degrees we're giving out, let's come all the way out of the closet, because when these players are now making 50, 75, 200,000, maybe $1 million. And so I remember the young Jason Whitlock who would have $20, $40 in his pocket and think that he's rich. And I remember the Jason Whitlock that was like, hey, how can I cut corners? How can I make things happen with as little effort as possible? And so these athletes, there's no telling who they could, oh, I need this paper written. Here's $500. Oh, I need someone to, take this test for me. Here's $1,000. Let's come all the way out of the closet and say that this injection of money has removed all the academic and obviously amateurism and all that. It's removed all of that. And these guys are just little businesses and what businesses will do, they'll cut corners any way that they can. And so if you hear me defending anything, Steve, it's the fact that I benefited from the old system. I was broke in college. My coaches were really hard on me in college, and they had to force things on me that I really didn't want to do. And I'm now in my years of wisdom, I'm so appreciative of the fact that they called BS on me, forced me to do things I didn't want to do. And I'm so appreciative that I was forced to participate in Ball State academically. It's benefited me for the rest of my life. And so, yes, I'm defensive of that process, but I wish that everybody would just say, hey, we've completely abandoned that model completely. And so these aren't student athletes, these are just athletes. They're here to play football. And now do whatever you want and negotiate with those guys however you want. But I would love to hear Deion and those guys come that far out of the closet, because I think that's what they believe. I don't, I heard all these things about, this kid or that kid was a 4.0 student at Colorado or any of these schools. And I go, well, how'd they do it? How'd they do it? And if I had $100,000 in my pocket or in a bank account, yeah, I would have been a 4.0 student at Ball State too.
I don't disagree, but we need to come to this reality. This is now professional sports. And when you are paid to do something, that becomes an occupation, okay? And they are professional athletes now. So maybe the same guidelines, because what they're doing is actually against the rules. You're not allowed to do it at the NCAA level, okay? We need to change everything now, because as of 6-7 years ago, you were not allowed to make money on your name, image, and likeness. You're not allowed to essentially get paid. And you go into this whole NIL issue. The collective. What is a collective? Collective is a bunch of money put together by boosters that basically, in essence, create your salary cap. And now they say, well, the university's not involved. Trust me, they're tied together. Let's not be naive. So you're right, Jason. In the immortal words of Brian Billick long time ago, it's time to blow the whole thing up.
On that, we agree. Steve, I want to keep it moving. Draymond Green, he's now weighed. Everybody's weighed in on Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James and that dust up. And now Draymond Green has weighed in. We all know that Draymond Green would love to have LeBron James's baby and be teammates. I've never seen a love affair quite like Draymond Green's affinity for LeBron James. But here's Draymond on having no respect for Stephen A. Smith.
You make sure you tell Stephen A. that I have zero respect for what he said yesterday. You go on TV, national TV, calling out this African-American, this black father who's raised another successful black young man. And you go on TV calling him out as a father because his son played in the NBA? That's ass backwards. You are on national TV condemning a black man as a father because his son is playing in the NBA. Like, how does that even make sense? And I told Bob that. I said, you should tell him. Like, I can't respect that. Like, if you want to talk about him as a basketball player, talk about him as a basketball player. If you want to talk about Bronny as a basketball player, go ahead. He an NBA player.
There's a lot I don't like about those comments, but I want you go first, Steve.
Believe it or not, I think this is becoming really unfair to Stephen A. Smith. He gave an opinion. He gave an opinion that, by the way, most people agree with. And I don't think he was attacking him per se as a father or a black father. I think what he meant, and I think it was pretty clear, is like you're putting your son in a very unfair situation. Most people would agree with that. Stephen A. Smith's job, whether we like his opinions or not, is to give his opinion. And by the way, the more honest, the more unfiltered, the better. It is okay if we disagree with them. Now this thing is delving into this whole personal issue. And I don't know if it's about the opinion or just Stephen A., the individual. Now, that's a different argument, okay? But, yeah, I actually believe a lot of this now is unfair to that man right there, believe it or not.
Yeah, I think it's unfair. The only reason why I won't whine too hard is because I think some of this, I feel like it's manufactured. I don't, the authenticity of it, I'm just not buying. Now, let me address it, just taking things at face value. What I really, really don't like about what Draymond Green is saying, and look, it's been so normalized to talk and think this way, but it shouldn't be normal, and it's not healthy. This whole inference that I can't believe you talk about a black father this way, is if there's some special level of treatment that Stephen A. owes LeBron James because of the color of his skin. And people just say this like it's the equivalent of saying today is Tuesday. And it's like it's a settled upon fact that today is Tuesday, and it's a settled upon fact that if you have melanin or more melanin in your skin, you're not supposed to say certain things about people that share some level of your melanin. Steve, this is crazy. You can't, for all of these platforms, and again, I know this isn't ESPN, this is Draymond's own podcast, and he has freedom of speech, but for this to be normalized and sent out to young people that, hey, there's a special set of rules for black people that they have to adhere to, or they're outside the norm, or they should be rebuked. I just can't believe that's where we are as a society, but it is where we are. We've been there for a long time. It doesn't seem to be receding at all. It just seems to be getting more and more and more prevalent. And Draymond Green is calling for a special, he doesn't fully understand it, but he's calling for a special set of rules for black people. This is unsustainable.
Well, Jason, one of my favorite Thomas Sowell quotes or statements, and I've said this before on this show, and I think it rings very true. For those who have been given preferential treatment their whole lives, equal treatment seems oppressive. End of quote.
It's actually a marvelous statement, and that does kind of summarize what Draymond is expressing and what he's exposing about himself, is that I've been an elite athlete. People have catered to me. I've been allowed to flout the rules and do things no one else can do because I'm 6'5", 6'6", and can play basketball. And now I've established this, hey, if I'm a father and my skin is black and I'm participating in my son's life, I'm beyond criticism. You can't criticize anything I do as a father. And I'm just sorry, Stephen A's comments about LeBron James they didn't cross some line, they weren't over the top, they weren't deeply personal, they were an examination of, hey man, you put your son in this spot, you made the Lakers draft him, and this is the position, so Bronny's got to deal with this. But I'm just telling you, see, I listened to what Draymond is saying, and it makes me sad that, I don't know if beyond me, if there's going to be any other black sports media people, content creators that are going to be offended and or just talk about like, this guy's on a platform just kind of proudly saying, hey, as a black person, I need a different level of treatment than everybody else. I'm owed that. And I guess he feels like he's owed that because of slavery 160 years ago or Jim Crow, which was, 70 years ago. As a black father, LeBron James is a billionaire. He needs a special level of treatment? Really? It's sad, man.
My view is that in terms of the mainstream media, there will be no one that'll take your side or come out as harshly, right? But in terms of YouTube, and I'm not using YouTube as a pejorative. That is now the most powerful network in the world. Okay, YouTube is now mainstream to a lot of degree, but I think there are a lot of independent creators who have their own channels that are very influential, especially ones that are anti-LeBron, because there is that sentiment. I believe that there will be more than one that will take your view of this. Okay. But in terms of, let's go back to what Stephen A. Smith really said and what he really meant. I mean, I see this all the time on either the TikTok clips that have come up on Twitter, certainly Instagram and Twitter itself. There are now accounts that focus in on lampooning Bronny. Bronny will airball something in a warm-up. You know, doesn't mean anything. It's 30 minutes before the game. And they'll make a whole thing about it. They'll make a funny video with effects. And you actually look at the engagement, it'll have like 1.1 million views in about 4 hours. And I think that's what Stephen A. Smith was talking about. He didn't say you were a bad father. He didn't say you didn't provide, that you didn't have a great home, that you weren't a great mentor. But the position you put him in is that you've made your son, given the circumstances of how he became an NBA player, into an everyday walking potential meme.
And LeBron did that. And I've been very reluctant, and all these people that, oh, LeBron's a great father. Well, how do you know? You don't know whether he's great or bad. All you can do is evaluate what you can see. And the one thing we can see is that he forced his son into the NBA, and you know, he's got to deal with the consequences of that, and people get to talk about that because he forced a professional sports franchise to do something for his son. It's nepotism, and people are going to talk about it. But all this whole thing, LeBron's a great father, and LeBron is above criticism, and how dare you as a black man comment on it? Perhaps he's commenting on it because he doesn't want other fathers, regardless of color, hey, don't make this mistake. Yeah. Don't put your child in this situation. Don't turn your child into a social media meme, particularly a child that the world is his oyster. He has the whole world. If he doesn't make it as a basketball player, he's got the family backing, the resource. He could be a lawyer. He could be a dentist. He could be a doctor. He could be anything. He could own an insurance agency. He could become a sports agent. LeBron shoved him into this lane of NBA player, and the guy probably has the athleticism to be a football safety, but that was never an option for him because he's LeBron's son. And Stephen A. talking about that and talking about the consequence is very fair ground, but you know, these elites are pushing something, and it's all along racial lines, and that's how you get people to accept it. Everybody, yeah, Stephen A., no way. He should criticize LeBron James. And you know, if they could point to me other ethnic groups that are applying this standard, because I don't see white people running around saying, hey, white people, we shouldn't criticize Donald Trump. You know, about half of white America does that every day. That's what they eat for breakfast, is criticizing Donald Trump. But we're the Special Olympics, black men, black women, we're the Special Olympics. And, you know, any criticism leveled at us is nearly a death blow. Makes me sick. Steve, I got one more topic for you. Kendrick Perkins has argued the case and made the contention that Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. And I would have to believe that means surpassing Magic Johnson. Let's listen to Kendrick Perkins.
Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. Greatest point guard of all time. We talk about those 4,000 points and it impacting his legacy, right? Think about what it did to the league. It changed the NBA. It changed basketball forever. You talk about these guys that wish they could take these shots, these kids that wish they... Well, I'm actually in the gym watching these... I'm not sure that's... trying to take those shots, Bob. And when you think about it, when you think about Steph, he's one of the most skilled players to ever play the game of basketball. Already the best shooter to ever play the game of basketball. Top 5 in handles, right? And when it comes to finishing at the basket, but let me read this to y'all. Steph Curry, okay? There are only 2 players to win an Olympic gold medal, multiple MVPs, multiple NBA titles, and multiple scoring titles. That's Steph and Jordan.
That last little point he made is pretty good. The rest of it I could defeat kind of easily, but the last point he made put he and Jordan in a category. Obviously, I'm a Magic Johnson homer. I assume you're a Magic Johnson homer. Has Kendrick Perkins made a legitimate argument here?
No. The only way it would have been legitimate if he would have said, in my lifetime that I've seen. And to defend Steph, I've never looked at him as a pure point. I've always thought of him as the greatest combo guard ever. What unbelievable shooting acumen. Maybe the greatest ever. I think many people believe that. But when I think of a consummate point guard that, number one, thinks of distributing the ball and getting the offense into the right place for others, there have been many great point guards. Isaiah Thomas, John Stockton, Bob Cousy, guys of that ilk. They're all great. None of them, though, was 6'9". And there's this misunderstanding about Magic that he couldn't shoot. Was he a great shooter, per se? No. But was he Ben Simmons? Absolutely not. He had a good set shot, shooting off the dribble and creating his own space for the jumper was not his game. But if he swung the ball around, he had that set shot, and because he was 6'9", he can get it up over a lot of guys. Later in his career, he also became a really good post player. In fact, he spent more time in the post his last year or two than he did actually up top, it seemed like, in certain games. He had a junior sky hook. Okay, so he was an absolute mismatch downstairs. He had a left hand. He was ambidextrous. Also, the greatest floor vision I have ever seen of any player. Okay, so Steph Curry is unbelievable, but he could not do as many things, in my view, that a Magic Johnson. They were both kind of average defensively, but I looked at the numbers, and the numbers can lie. I agree. But in most years, Steph Curry as a point guard, if that's what you want to call him, Jason, you know he averages or is right around that range of 7 to 8.5 assists. Magic Johnson was always around 10 to 12. And in fact, his last year in 1991, the last real season, I don't count 96, but in 91, he still averaged 19.5 points and I believe right around 12 assists. And that was a Magic that lost a little bit of his athleticism. He became heavier. The Lakers under Mike Dunleavy that year, Jason, I probably watched 75 games of that season, regular season. They were much more of a half-court team. They were not Showtime anymore, okay? But he still led them to the NBA Finals and beat an unbelievably talented Portland Trailblazer team. So once again, here goes the new generation of media and fans disrespecting an all-time great. So you want to talk about what's wrong with NBA coverage? It ain't us old guys, Jason. I'll just tell you that much.
Here's where I think Kendrick underestimates Magic and where he thinks Steph has a real advantage. And again, I liked his argument at the end. But his argument in the middle was basically, hey, look, I'm looking at all these young kids, and they're all trying to make Steph shots. Steph has transformed the game. He's made it a three-point shooting league. And everybody a long-distance shooting league. And look, he's changed the game more than anybody, is his argument. And what I think he's missing is that Magic Johnson was a transformative player in the NBA, and his legacy is still living on in the NBA. Magic was the first, or we felt like the first, 6'9", oversized guy that played the primary ball handling position, and ran the offense at 6'9". That had always been to the guys 6'3" and below. And so Magic Johnson's legacy still lives on. LeBron James plays a lot like Magic Johnson. 6'9" guy that the offense flows through, and he basically plays the point guard. All of these players now that are 6'7" and above, Magic Johnson is the guy that opened their eyes to, hey, you don't have to just play in the paint. You don't just have to be a forward. You can be a guard. You can run the offense from the forward position. Magic Johnson, a transformative player. His legacy still lives on in the NBA. A lot of these players, he opened the door for the oversized guys to do other things on the court besides playing the low post.
Well,
he's just as transformative. And just even the no-look passes and just trying to be a distributor, that's Magic Johnson's legacy.
I remember in that era, Jason, so Magic's rookie year was 79-80. And I will surmise that at his age, I believe it was 19 or 20, that game 6 he played against the 76ers without Kareem, 42, 12, and 7 or something like that's the greatest game that's ever been played by a young player with the magnitude of that game. But I remember that anytime there would be a new player that was above 6'6", whether it was Anthony Hardaway, Walt the Wizard Williams, Sean Elliott, and there were other guys, Lloyd Sweet Pea Daniels as a high schooler, they all said that's the next Magic. That's the next Magic. If you're above 6'6" and you could dribble the ball twice and run the offense, there inevitably became that's the next Magic. And no one really came close. I give Steph Curry a lot of credit in this sense. He is transformative in a sense that the pull-up three-pointer or the three-pointer early in the clock, there used to be a time you did that more than once if you weren't a star player. You know where you sat? Right next to the coach. So his style of play has absolutely been influential, and it has been impactful. Now, you can argue whether that's been good for the game or bad for the game or really a bad influence on a lot of players who do not have that skill. But when you start an all-NBA team, okay, and obviously I know the way Kendrick Perkins thinks, and he's allowed to have his opinion. I think the two easiest positions on the all-time NBA team, in my view, Jason, I don't know what yours is. One is Magic, two is Jordan. 3, 4, and 5, I think there's some real debate. I think those are the two easiest positions to pick out.
I agree with you. I have the bias. And you know, no disrespect to Steph Curry. I'm not, because again, I think I agree with you. Steph's more of a combo guard than a pure point guard. And so I'm not sure if I'm even willing to put Steph at number 2 in the point guard conversation.
Isaiah. Isaiah's your guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as it relates to combo guards, maybe I would call Steph the greatest combo guard of all time, but I would not put him ahead of Magic Johnson. Steve, thank you. I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday afternoon. I have a final thought here that I want to get to, and it's just a small one. I want to give credit to Shannon Sharpe. He did something interesting on First Take, and look, I'm giving him credit because I think me and we and this show, we're having a positive influence. That we're you know, people don't have to like us, but we're having an impact. And Shannon Sharpe yesterday on First Take actually made a biblical reference, and a good one. And he did it on ESPN's platform, and he did it spectacularly. And if there's ever been someone trying to understand why I've been critical of Shannon Sharpe, is because what I'm about to show you is who Shannon Sharpe really is. And the stuff that he was doing at Fox Sports, that whole ghetto shtick, that infuriated me because that's not who Shannon Sharpe is. This dude grew up in the South. His grandparents raising him. His grandparents taking him to church. Anyway, the whole ghetto stick with the do-rag and the blunt and all that, that's not Shannon Sharpe. This here is Shannon Sharpe. Let's watch the clip.
Let me tell you something. SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder, because this is what this is about. They don't get technical fouls. They don't complain about calls. This is why they're so great.
Can they get them all?
But no, man, listen. I'm talking about.
Do you remember the Bible? Perk, you go to church, Perk. You go to church. What did the devil tell the Lord about Job? He said, of course he gonna praise you. You give him everything. Remove the hedge and he'll cuss his very maker. If they started getting fouls called against them, of course they're gonna complain. Stop playing with me, Perk.
Shannon, I did go to church. I was the world's tallest altar boy.
Okay, so you know the story of Job.
I know
So what did he say? What did the Lord tell the devil? He said you could do everything but take his life. He took his kids, he took his sheep, sheep. He took his livestock. What did he do? Even his wife said, why don't you curse this man and get out of this misery?
Okay.
He said, is he not God in good and in bad?
That's the real Shannon Sharpe. And that's many of these guys on TV. But they won't go there. They won't reveal their biblical upbringing, biblical knowledge, because they know it's not financially rewarded. And so anyway, I just wanted to say hats off to Shannon Sharpe. And you know what? I get why Stephen A. Smith was giggling and laughing, is because like, oh wow, look at Shannon. That's the real Shannon, and this is enjoyable and fun, and it's a clever biblical reference. And so, you know, hats off to First Take, Shannon Sharpe, and even Stephen A. Smith. But I do think that's the influence of this show. We're demonstrating to people that you don't have to hide your biblical upbringing or any part of your worldview that's biblical. And I'm glad he showed it, because now, you know, because he knows this kind of stuff and this is how he was raised and brought up, now we can hold him to a biblical standard. And that's what we need to do. All right, that's it, and that's all for us today. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I just want, I wanna be, I just want, I wanna be, I just want, I wanna be, I just